So yesterday, don't know if you happen to see this, police forces across the province taking part in the anti-drug trafficking raids. Lots of different areas as well, targeting the Hells Angels and the Mafia as well. And apparently there are more to come. Paul Cherry is a Montreal Gazette crime reporter. He's on the line right now. Paul, thanks for the time this afternoon.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
It has been a while since I've seen anything with respect to these raids, Hells and Mafia, same time. Tell us a little bit more about what happened.
You're familiar, of course, with the Jordan decision that came through from the Supreme Court of Canada, where someone who's charged with a crime, they have to be their case has to come to an end within a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So what the police are doing now in these complex drug trafficking investigations is they go after evidence first before they arrest anybody, because as soon as you arrest them, that clock starts ticking. And it's a sign that yesterday's operation was a sign that they have a lot of evidence apparently, and they're going after more evidence, probably like their cell phones or their computers or things like that. And it could take maybe a year or two before any arrests are made from what happened yesterday.
Okay, so we understand 8 different operations were held over the last little while, and more to come. We've also heard about Leonardo Rizzuto, the recent shooting. Can you tell us a little bit of what you think is going on? Why this resurgence of hearing about Hells Angels and the Mafia? Because like Aaron touched upon, it seems like it's been quiet for a little while.
You're right. It has been very quiet. But there's a guy in February who was a full-patch Hells Angels named Serge Le Brasseur. He was arrested in Sorel. Interestingly, that's like the birthplace of the Hells Angels in Canada. He was arrested in a drug trafficking investigation, and his house was searched, I think, a year or two or 2 years ago in a similar type of investigation, and so again, it took a long time before he was actually arrested. He was arrested along with several other people, but yesterday, it's the first time in a long time where at least 2 very important members of the Hells Angels have been are together in the same investigation. I don't think it's happened since 2016. For 2017, the Hells Angels have been they're very good at keeping an arm's distance away from the people who sell their drugs. If you can believe, I still have a tough time believing it. What they do is they tax dealers for operating on territory that they consider to be theirs. There's a long history there. I'm sure you guys remember the Quebec Biker War.
Of course.
From 1994 to 2002, they fought hard to establish these territories that they still claim are theirs, and it's become this kind of bureaucratic nonsense where they say, "Oh wait, you're selling on our property? Well, guess what? Now you work for me, and I'm going to tax you for the right to sell on my territory."
You know, I thought you said attack, and then I realized you said tax, not attack. So typically we'd expect the other thing to happen, right? They'd say you can't sell here, but this is kind of a more modern approach.
Yeah, Quebecers are very familiar with being
taxing.
Taxed.
Yeah, there is that. To get back to what you said about how long this takes, so they gather the evidence, and even now with the bust that happened yesterday, this doesn't go anywhere. You figure for at least another year, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's significant because there's 3 full-patch Hells Angels being investigated together. That hasn't been seen in a while. And there's also Francesco Del Basso, a very well-known man in the mafia circles. He used to be, in 2006, he was arrested as one of 6 leaders in the Montreal mafia. Vito Rizzuto had been extradited to the U.S. He put in place a committee of people to take his place while he was gone. Francesco Del Basso was one of them, and he was. I covered that case very well. It was called Project Colisée, and he was the most interesting person investigating that case. He loved talking on the phone, maybe a bit too much. He's a famous guy that came out of the Charbonneau Commission. He's the guy who told a contractor coming in from outside Montreal, if you come in here again to do a job, you'll be drinking your meals through a straw. That was kind of one of the famous lines that came out of the Charbonneau Commission. That was that is Francesco Del Basso.
Sounds like a movie.
I'm wondering too. You brought up, Natasha brought up the Leonardo Rizzuto shooting. Has the power dynamic changed here, Paul, in terms of who's running what, as far as the mob is concerned here?
Well, as far as I know, it's very confusing. Actually, it's there was a murder trial that was held recently that showed that there was in 2016 there was a real battle going on between the Calabrian camp, the old guys from the Catroni era, or the people, the generation that came after them. They started to say, maybe it's time that we took control again, and they went after some of the heads of the mafia, the Rizzuto organization. They got Del Basso's best friend, Lorenzo Giordano. Mm-hmm. He was killed in Laval in 2016. But all the evidence in that murder trial came from a informant, a hitman who carried out some of the murders. But he consumed marijuana at an unbelievable level. When he testified in court, I believe he had a bipolar disorder or something like that, and when he testified, his words just went out of control. It was quite something to see. So it's very confusing to figure out who was on what side. But from his testimony, you did get the impression it was confusing anyway, even not filtered through his brain. It was confusing. It was very hard to tell who was on what side. I think Del Basso might have found himself on the outside eventually, outside the Rizzuto organization. But
okay.
I mean, in 2006, he was one of the heads.
Okay, so that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, I feel like there hasn't been a clear boss. So I wondered if things been kind of quiet because things are in disarray. It's been kind of disorganized crime instead of organized crime for a while. Is that the case, Paul, or that's just an impression I have?
Well, there was an investigation called the Projet Mago Mastiff, where they rounded up the heads of they rounded up Mr. Rizzuto and his friend Stefanos Licito. They were, and the SQ said at that time that they were the heads of the Montreal Mafia, and that at that time, I see everything as just happening yesterday, but several years ago now. Mm-hmm. They were working together with the Hells Angels. I haven't seen anything that suggests that anyone has taken over, has taken over, especially the Montreal Mafia since then. To me, that still stands. What the SQ said several years ago, that it's the Mr. Rizzuto and Stefano Solicito who were at the heads. But if they are working with the Hells Angels, especially the Hells Angels became very, very quiet. Like I said, they kept an arm's distance from the people who were dealing for them, and instead charging attacks, stuff like that.
All right. Well, listen, I guess the police have told us, too, this is not the end of it. This was a big deal yesterday, but there'll be more to come. Paul, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Paul Cherry, Montreal Gazette crime reporter on the latest set of busts, raids, if you will. Just again, hard to imagine it happens now and you got to wait 2 years for this thing to actually go anywhere.
I was going to say that timeline thing is interesting, that they delay the arrest because they know the clock starts ticking on the Jordan.
And still there's a delay.
Yeah.